That's great. So we have maybe 300, 400 street vendors coming here today. And we want to give them a big round of applause and a big shout out to our vendors. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mohammed Atiyah, the Managing Director of the Street Vendor Project, and we are here today.
Just stand in front of the microphone. No, I'm just saying, you just get close to it.
How about now? That's better?
Yeah.
All right. So let's restart. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mohammed Atiyah. I'm the Managing Director of the Street Vendor Project at the Urban Justice Center, and we are here as a part of the Street Vendor Justice Coalition. So we want to give a big round of applause to the coalition who is here today. 10 organizations came together 2 years ago to form the Street Vendor Justice Coalition to ensure that we have a fair system to the street vendors in New York City. 10 organizations, most of them are here today. I want to give them a big round of applause. I'm gonna go over their names quickly. Jews for Racial and Economic Justice, JFREJ, Transportation Alternatives, Open Plans, United for Small Business NYC, the Arab American Association New York, Writers Alliance, New York Immigration Coalition, Community Service Society, the New York chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations. I also want to recognize Faith in New York, Evolved Harlem Merchants Coalition, and NYC New Liberals. The Street Vendor Justice Coalition today is here to demonstrate to the council and to everyone how the street vending system is set up. In case you cannot see it, there is a big red box over there and followed by a massive barrier. This little box represents what exists right now in the city. The street vending system is so small for the street vending industry in New York City. The street vending system that was created back in the 70s and 80s under the influence of the interests of big real estate and big businesses created massive barriers to street vendors to enter into the formal economy and into the formal system. More rules and regulations have been created throughout the last several decades, and nobody wants to address that. Nobody wants to create a fair system. We're seeing here today the irrational system that the city created, and no one is looking into fixing this. In case you cannot read the signs, let me tell you what it reads. What exists in the system now, there are only 853 general vendor licenses that are required for any vendor to sell merchandise. 853, that's the most random, arbitrary number a city government can come up with one exception, of course, for the military veterans. However, there are 11,926 people on the wait list waiting to obtain one of these merchandise vending licenses. There are only 51 food vending permits only in the city of New York, and we have more than 14,000 individuals waiting to obtain one of those permits. The one thing we want to highlight also is 2 years ago, the city council passed a local law to increase the number of food vending permits and issue 4,000 new permits in the system. However, the health department is 9 months late. We haven't seen a single permit yet coming out. First thing, we are here today to highlight the issue and to propose the solution that we will talk about in a minute. But first off, we want to hear from the people who are impacted by this system. So please help me welcome our member, Mary Rose Goba, who is a food vendor, to share with us today how she is navigating this system. Mary Rose, come along, come along. Give it up for Mary Rose.
She needs to be closer to the other microphone so we can...
If you would like to come closer. All right, let's go.
Tu commences?
All right, let's go.
Ok. Je m'appelle Marie-Rose Goba. Je suis une marchande ambulante et je vends des fruits coupés à mi-temps.
My name is Marie-Rose Gogba. I'm a street vendor and I sell cut fruits in Midtown.
Je suis membre du Street Vendor Project depuis 10 ans et j'ai participé au passage de l'intro mai 116 où nous, en tant que vendeurs, nous sommes battus pour obtenir plus de permis pour les vendeurs.
I have been a member of the Street Vendor Project for over 10 years now and was part of the passage of Intro 1116, where we as vendors fought for more permits for the street vendors like me.
Étant originaire de l'Afrique de l'Ouest et depuis mon arrivée ici, je rêve de posséder un food truck où je pourrais vendre des pâtisseries et des beignets.
Being from West Africa, and since coming here, I have dreamt of owning my own food truck where I will sell pastries and beignets.
Quand j'ai réalisé que mon numéro de liste d'attente était 3344, ce rêve a commencé à se sentir plus loin qu'avant.
When I realized my waitlist number was at 3,344, that dream began to feel further away than before.
Malheureusement, de nombreux fournisseurs sont bloqués dans cette situation en raison d'un système obsolète.
Unfortunately, there are many vendors who are stuck in this situation due to an outdated system.
C'est pourquoi nous vous exhortons aujourd'hui, membres du conseil municipal, à réformer l'industrie de la vente des rues afin que nous puissions travailler avec dignité et dans un système juste.
That is why we urge you, City Council members, today to reform the street vending industry so that we can work with dignity under a just system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary Rose. And the story that we heard from Mary today is the story of thousands of vendors, not only food vendors, but also merchandise vendors who cannot access the proper license or permit from the city, who cannot operate in the system that was created back in the 70s and 80s. And now, as a coalition, we have the solution for you. We have the solution for the council, for the city government, for everyone. We need to create a massive reform. We are here to present the street vendor reform package. We need to address the street vendor reform platform by ensuring 4 things. The first thing we want to ensure is access to license and permits, making sure that all vendors can get the license and permits they need. The second thing is have the New York City Small Business Services to create a division for street vendors. We know that SBS have a lot of services for our small business community, but street vendors cannot access any of them. Next, we want to make sure that we have more legal vending locations. We need to ensure we revisit the nonsense rules that were created in the 70s and 80s that don't make sense anymore now in 2023. And finally, we want to ensure that only civilian enforcement will be overseeing the street vending system. We don't want to interact with the police. We don't want to see the NYPD criminalizing our street vendors and targeting them, arresting them, and giving them criminal tickets. Now we are here joined by a group of legislators, council members, champions, individuals, and more are coming, who are now ready to step up and do the right thing to the street vendors community and ensure that the system works for the vendors and for the whole city. So first, I would like to welcome from the Bronx, Council Member Perina Sanchez.
Thank you, vendor! Power. Vendor! Power. Vendor! Power. Vendor! Power. Good morning, everyone. It is my honor and privilege to be with you today, to be able to stand in solidarity. I always start with any conversation about street vendors with my own story, my family story. In the 1960s, my father sold peanuts without any shoes on in the streets of Santo Domingo. 10 years later, when they migrated to New York City, he still continued to be a street vendor here. He sold mixtapes on Fordham Road, Tremont Avenue in the Bronx and Washington Heights, and many in our family also turned to street vending to make ends meet, to put food on the table, to put a roof over our families' heads. Today, street vending continues to be such a critical part of the fabric of New York City. Close your eyes. Think about New York City in 1691, when push carts were a mainstay, a part of the fabric of what you saw when you walked through New York City. And yet, New York City's smallest businesses, an essential part of our city, nearly 20,000 entrepreneurs who are primarily immigrants, people of color, military veterans, women's, they're still employed as street vendors. The last available data, which needs to be updated, from 2012, showed that street vendors generated an estimated $71.2 million in local, state, and federal taxes. They contributed nearly $293 million to the local economy and $192 million in wages, 17,000 jobs. This is with street vending in the shadows. This was with an arbitrary cap of 852. What if we could figure this out? What if we could figure out how to share our street space and how to bring vendors out of the shadows so that they have the education, the resources, and all of the wherewithal and knowledge to be a formal part of the city of New York? Siempre empiezo con mi familia. La historia de mi familia con mi papá que vendía maní descalzo en las calles de Santo Domingo. Llegamos aquí a Estados Unidos y el ser vendedor ambulante siguió siendo central a nuestra comunidad, nuestra familia. Mi papá vendía cassettes en Fordham Road, en Tremont, en Alto Manhattan, y muchas personas de mi familia seguían y siguen siendo vendedores ambulantes. Los vendedores ambulantes son parte de la fábrica esencial de la ciudad de Nueva York. Necesitamos apoyarlos. Sabemos que en el 2012, y las cifras están un poco viejas, pero en el 2012 nosotros sabemos que los vendedores generaron $71.2 millones en impuestos locales, estatales y federales. También contribuyeron $293 millones a la economía local. ¿A dónde me paro? Ok. Y $192 millones en ganancias para los trabajadores. Los vendedores son parte de nuestra ciudad. Hicimos reformas aquí en el Consejo Municipal en el 2021, sí. Aumentamos un poquito la tasa de licencias, aunque no se han visto todavía, pero no hemos hecho lo fundamental. No hemos hecho lo fundamental, que es legalizar una industria que es parte central de la ciudad de Nueva York. We made modest reforms in 2021 with Intro 1116. We haven't seen the permits yet. We haven't seen the progress, but there were some movements. However, we have not addressed the fundamental issue. An industry that is part of the essence of the city of New York, that is forced to vend in the shadows. They may not know the rules of where they can vend, where they can stand. They may not be aware, because they do not have access to government and education, that you shouldn't be on a curb cut. But whose fault is that? That is our fault in government. That is our fault for not creating the systems and the structures that will allow the street vending community to live with us in harmony and to vend and provide for their families. ¿De quién tiene la culpa? La culpa la tenemos nosotros en la ciudad de Nueva York y en el estado. Nosotros tenemos la culpa de que los vendedores a lo mejor no sepan que no deberían de estar en una parada de guagua. A lo mejor no sepan exactamente cuáles son los sitios donde pueden estar. Es nuestra culpa porque nosotros no hemos hecho las reglamentas para que ellos puedan vender y proveer por sus familias, así como cualquier persona en Nueva York. And I will close with this. It's always a little longer with two languages, so I apologize. But I will close with this. I call on my colleagues to join us. Many of us are already in coalition and working together and putting our minds together. But I call on all 51 city council members and all of our state legislators to attend to this platform here. These 4 bullet points that summarize what the street vending community is after: dignity, respect, the ability to be a part of the city just like anyone else, So yo llamo a mis colegas, los 51 concejales, muchos que ya estamos aquí en unión, pero yo llamo a los concejales, yo llamo a los legisladores del estado de Nueva York a estos 4 puntos, que lo que piden es dignidad para los vendedores. No vamos a descansar, vamos a seguir, y bueno, nos eligieron y aquí estamos. We were elected and here we are to fight to make sure that we reach the rational, positive system that we know is possible. Thank you so much to the Street Vending Coalition and to my colleagues.
Thank you so much, Council Member. And next, I would like to welcome the local council member from downtown Manhattan, Chinatown, Financial District, Council Member Christopher Marte.
Street vendors are small business owners. We got to make that clear. Every morning they wake up, clean their location, set up shop, say hi to their clientele, and provide a service that's needed in New York City. In my district that has one of the wealthiest zip codes, sometimes the only affordable food you can find are from street vendors.
That's right.
The council did their job by expanding the permits, but this administration hasn't met the moment. So we're here today to say, please continue to expand the amount of licenses, but actually issue the permits to make sure that people can street vend in every single corner of our city. Whether it's downtown Manhattan, the South Bronx, or East New York. This is integral to New York City. Some people, this is how they start their career. We heard from Perina Sanchez, whose dad was a street vendor, and now his daughter is a city council member. Street vending is a part of the New York City dream. It gives us an opportunity. And these are real New Yorkers serving our city every day. They pay their taxes. They pay their rent. And all we're asking for this is an opportunity. And for us to be seen by this administration. And so we're here to continue to put pressure, but also to think about innovative ways where we can not only increase the geography of street vending, but how many licenses are issued. Thank you all, and let's keep on fighting.
Thank you so much, Council Member. And next, I would like to welcome the Public Advocate, Jumaane Williams.
Peace and blessing, love and light to you all. I say vendor, you say power, vendor. Power. Vendor. Power. Vendor. Power. I'm very proud to be here. I'm very sad that we have to be here continually to do this. As was mentioned, vendors and street vendors, not only small business owners, they are probably the oldest small business owners in this city. They have probably started small businesses in this city. We also know that as a society, and unfortunately also in this city, we often like to benefit from things, but not help the people who are providing that benefit. And so whether it's deliveristas or vendors, we want to get their labor. We want to get the thing that they provide, but we want to continue an abusive structure in which they provide it. That's unfair. That is something that as a society we have to say we have to stop. And as mentioned, the council did its part in passing laws to help that. Unfortunately, laws are only as good as their enactment. And so those laws were put in place for a reason, but administrations haven't followed up on those laws. So if you have a law that says NYPD should not be part of the enforcement and they're still doing it, that's a problem. These vendors are getting doubly enforced. Where else is that happening? We set up a system of civilian enforcement that's doing its job, and even the advocates say they're not asking for them to stop enforcement. What they're asking for is stop the double enforcement that's occurring. We also had a law passed to increase the amount of permits, but nothing is being done to get those permits in the places in the hands of people who need it. So we have a market that also is exploitative to people who are just trying to feed their families. So I am here now to say to the administration, follow the law that's already in place, and I'm also here to support the new laws that are going to come forward to help these vendors do their job, which is providing the service that New Yorkers want, need, and have. in a way that's less exploitative of them and their families. As was mentioned, these are New Yorkers serving New Yorkers, and we need to treat all New Yorkers properly, fairly, and equitably. So I want to thank the vendors for all of your service to New York. I want to thank you for being there through COVID when people are trying to figure out how to get their food and other things, and you were there. No one is expendable, and that includes our vendors. So we must provide a system and structure that is less abusive to them, the way we would want to be treated at our jobs. Thank you so much. Peace and blessings to you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Public Advocate. Well, I think we heard it very well from all the elected officials who took the stand yet, and we still have more perspective coming. But we have from Queens, Council Member Julie Wan.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Mohammed. And 400 vendors are here today and all of its partners and coalitions. My name is Julie Wan. I'm the council member from Western Queens, representing Long Island City, Sunnyside, Woodside, and Astoria. As you just heard, when we think about New York City, as an immigrant, before I immigrated here, the postcards and the images that I would think of are the hot dogs in Times Square, the peanuts, like we heard from Perina Sanchez, their council member from the Bronx, as well as the halal guys. These street vendors are a hallmark of New York City's identity. The three things that I want you to remember is expanding licenses and locations for these street vendors to make sure that these street vendors not only have licenses and locations, but also the support and the ecosystem to thrive as an actualized small business from SBS. And we want to make sure that we do not want to see the NYPD going around arresting any more churro ladies. Stop criminalizing our women and all of our street vendors who are just trying to make a living. We are in midst of a migrant crisis with more than 40,000 migrants rushing into our city, a sanctuary city. If you do not want them to be struggling, allow them to work. If our government is refusing to give them work authorizations, street vending is going to be how they make a living and get their start so that they can pursue their dreams of having a daughter be their ancestors' dreams of being a legislator in New York City like Councilmember Sanchez. So we need to make sure that we support them, that we recognize them, that we understand that these are our aunties, these are our mothers, these are our sisters, these are our brothers. When I walk around in my neighborhood late at night, you know who say hi to me? My tamale ladies. You know who keeps me safe, who makes sure that I eat my breakfast every morning, especially when I was pregnant? My neighbors who are there every single morning selling their bagels in their carts. So these people are not just someone that you can exploit, someone that you can dismiss, but these people are integral parts of our neighborhoods, our society, our economy. As you heard, they're bringing in millions of dollars when allowed to street vend legally. We do not want them to be othered. They are nothing but our own neighbors and people that we love, people that we know by name, people who say buenos dias every time I go to work. And we are going to continue to fight for them, defend them, and protect them. And these are the changes that we demand. And I know that with our coalition that is here, I know that Councilmember Tiffany Caban, Oswald Feliz, and Shekhar Krishnan have also come, that we will continue to stand in solidarity with them. And we are going to make progress, not just on paper, but in real life. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Council Member. Next, please, let's go back to the Bronx and welcome Council Member Oswald Feliz.
Thank you so much. Saludos a todos. Soy el concejal Oswald Feliz. Le quiero dar la gracia a todos ustedes. I want to thank all of you for being here today and for working every single day to create a better system for you and your colleagues. I'm Councilmember Oswald Feliz. I represent Fordham Road. Is Fordham Road in the house? Yeah. No lo oigo. Is Fordham Road in the house? Yeah. I'll say what we all know, which is that our vendedores are some of the most hardest working New Yorkers. In many cases, working 10-hour days, 7 days a week, working for many reasons, including to bring products and fruits to neighborhoods like the one that I represent so that our peoples and our communities can be healthy, including communities in the Bronx, communities that in many cases don't have access to these healthy fruits due to high prices and so much more. but also working to support your family, working 7 days a week so that your family could live what we call the American dream, like our colleague, Councilmember Purina Sanchez. And the interesting part is that, we need to look out for our workers, and our vendedores just want to do one thing. They just want to work and support their families. So as long as I'm here in the City Council, all of you could count on my support to fight with you every step of the way to create a system that works for all of us. Nuestros vendedores trabajan extremadamente fuerte, en muchos casos 10 horas al día, 7 días a la semana, y trabajan para traer productos que nuestras comunidades necesitan, incluyendo frutas, que en muchos casos no son accesibles a comunidades como la que yo represento en el Bronx, pero también trabajando extremadamente fuerte para apoyar a su familia. Y nuestros vendedores solamente quieren hacer una cosa, quieren trabajar y darle para atrás a nuestras comunidades como la que yo represento en Fordham Road. So, yo como concejal, ustedes pueden contar con mi apoyo. Estoy extremadamente agradecido por todo lo que ustedes hacen. Very grateful for everything that you do in our neighborhoods. Very thankful, and all of you could continue to count on my support to again create the system that all of you deserve. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Council Member. Now we have the Upper West Side with Council Member Gail Brewer. A long-time champion, people. A long-time champion for decades. Council Member Brewer has been holding it down. I can tell you that.
I'm Gail Brewer. I'm just old, so I've been doing this for a long time, and I love the Street Vendor Project. That's why I'm here. I'm here because despite the challenges from bricks and mortar, the fact is that with the Street Vendor Project, good legislation, the only kind of enforcement that makes sense and that follows the law, doesn't go beyond it, that's what we want. We do need more spots. You do need more places, because what we don't want is illegal vending. We want you to have a license. We want you to know that when you go out in the morning and you go 7 days a week, hot weather, cold weather, that you have the ability to not worry about getting some kind of an illegal ticket or summons because there's not enough spots. And that's why we're here. But I want to say, to the credit of Mohammed and his amazing staff, the Street Vendor Project is really the way in which this vending operation works. With all due respect to consumer and NYPD and the health department, this amazing man and his staff figure out how to navigate the complicated bureaucracy, the complicated working with the agencies and the vendors. So I want to give him a big round of applause. I mean that. Thank you very much, and I'm here to be supportive because of the work that each and every person does on the street, in the bureaucracy, and in the halls of City Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Council Member, and thanks everyone. Thanks the vendors. Big round of applause for the vendors.
Vendor! Vendor! Vendor!
Next, please help me welcome a colleague and a partner in this coalition, Balanda Joachim from United for Small Business.
Hi, everyone. So nice to be with you today. So hi, my name is Balanda Joachim. I'm a campaign organizer at the Association for Neighborhood and Housing Development. I coordinate the United for Small Businesses of New York City, also known as USBNYC. We're a citywide coalition of community organizations where we fight for small businesses and non-residential tenants against the threat from displacement. And we focus on owner-operated BIPOC-ran businesses and serve low-income BIPOC communities. And we are here today to support the platform for street vendor justice. Street vendors are some of our smallest small businesses, and street vendors play such an important role in our communities and should be treated as such. What makes this city so unique is the small local businesses that make our communities vibrant and distinct. Street vendors are an important source of culturally relevant food and other goods that help make our neighbors feel like home. NYC needs to stop criminalizing and unreasonable, limiting street vendors, and instead provide the services, supports, and opportunities street vendors need to grow their businesses and contribute to our neighborhood economies. USVNYC is proud to have Street Vendor Project as a coalition member, and will continue to fight against displacement for both street vendors and our brick and mortar small businesses. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Belinda. Great having you and great to have the whole coalition here. Next, let's go back to Queens and welcome Council Member Tiffany Caban.
Hey, y'all. Vendor? Vendor? I just want to start by extending my gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for feeding me, but also not just nourishing me physically, but thank you for nourishing my sense of community. Thank you for nourishing and connecting me to culture, my own and yours, and how beautiful that is. Thank you. And thank you for representing the best of what New York City is. And folks have hit a lot of notes, so I don't want to repeat a lot of it, but I want to stress that this is a public safety issue. Before I became a council member, I was a public defender, and I represented far too many of my street vendor neighbors in court. Folks who came in having to share their stories of the trauma of harassment, violent arrest, explaining how they had lost not just their food for the day, but maybe their earnings or their ability to take care of themselves for weeks or months, setting them far, far behind. The indignity of having to show up over and over again in a criminal courtroom, the destabilization that caused, that is not safety. And we deserve better. Y'all deserve better. And so I'm here to continue to stand with you to say that, yes, we need to incorporate, because that's the only way that this happens, right? Decriminalization and breaking that cycle and that culture. We have to fold in our beloved, valued, smallest of small business owners into our governmental infrastructure. We have to account for them by very simple things. More access to business licensing, again, by decriminalizing street vending, by incorporating services into SBS, by adding more locations. Our health and safety, and quite frankly, if you care about your neighbors and the dignity that we all should be afforded every single day, we got to do these things right here. So I will continue to stand with you. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all, and we're going to get it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Council Member. And we're still in Queens. We're going 2 stops to the east, and we want to welcome Council Member Krishnan, Shekhar Krishnan.
Buenas tardes. ¿Los vendedores están presentes? Vendor. Vendor. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shekhar Krishnan. I'm the council member for Jackson Heights and Elmhurst, Queens. That's right. Queens está presente. Jackson Heights presente. We are a community of street vendors, and street vendors are our smallest businesses. But the problem is our government doesn't treat them that way. We are facing the criminalizing of street vendors. We are facing a huge backlog in licenses being distributed and implemented. And we need to lift the cap finally on licenses. We need much more in services and resources from our government for our street vendors. Our street vendors have sustained us during the pandemic. They sustain us every single day. And it's time that their rights are recognized and treated with dignity and with respect. Because that's what it means to be a small business. And we cannot say that we support small businesses in this city until we support our smallest ones. So I'm so grateful to each and every one of you. Thank you to our street vendors. Thank you to Street Vendor Project. I will always stand with you and fight by your side. Brevemente en español, mi nombre es Shekhar Krishnan. Soy el concejal de Jackson Heights y Elmhurst, Queens, una comunidad de vendedores, una comunidad de inmigrantes. Los vendedores son los negocios más pequeños por toda la ciudad, pero el problema es que nuestro sistema del gobierno no los reconoce así. Necesitamos más recursos, más servicios para apoyar a nuestros vendedores, más protecciones por ellos. Tenemos que despenalizar los vendedores y su profesión. Y también necesitamos una ciudad con dignidad. Y por eso, para proteger, para avanzar los derechos de los negocios pequeños, tenemos que empezar que los que son los más pequeños, nuestros vendedores. Seguimos luchando y siempre estoy con ustedes en esta lucha. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much, Council Member. Next, we're going to Harlem, and I would love to welcome Council Member Kristen Richardson Jordan and Kelvin Baker. Come on.
Hi, family. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for vending. Thank you for bringing the heritage, history, and culture. And thank you for what you're doing today with this show of people power and strength. I'm definitely here to stand in solidarity, representing the great state of Harlem. And I also just wanted to echo some of the words of my colleague, Tiffany Cabanin, that I believe it is a safety issue. We need less of the police harassment and more vendors on the streets. We need to understand that you not only have a right to vend, but this is the avenue for change for our communities. This is how we build power and we build wealth. This is how we combat poverty. This is actually how we solve crime, Mr. Mayor. This is actually how we do it. We have to not only break through the red tape, but we have to come up with more support, grants, funding to help our vendors grow and grow these small businesses, because that is how we actually build our communities. That's actually how we address violence, because capitalism is violent. This current system is violent. The denial of these licenses is violence. So thank you again for being here today. I'm happy to stand in solidarity. I will always switch the narrative because the vendors are not the villains. And I am going to pass the mic to my colleague here representing Harlem Vendors.
How y'all doing? Hey, man. Listen, vendors, who are they? These are people that live in the community. These are people that know the community. So when we have someone come up, we know who they are. We know if they're hungry. We know if they need clothes. We know all of these things about our community. And why shouldn't we be able to make money in our own community? We pay taxes. We send our kids to school. We buy food like everyone else. Why should we be denied of having that right? Why? You only have 853 people that can get a license. You have more than that on just one avenue in Harlem. So something has to happen. Cut the red tape. Cut the red tape. Did y'all catch that? That was kind of funny, wasn't it? But cut the red tape. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Council Member. Thank you so much, Kelvin. Next, I would like to welcome a coalition partner, Jackson Chavez from Open Plans. Give it up to Open Plans, people.
Good morning. Vendor! 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 Good morning, good morning. My name is Jackson Chabot. I'm the Director of Advocacy and Organizing at Open Plans. We advocate for safe, joyful, and nourishing public space. Vendors are key to this vision and key to our city, as you've heard from many other speakers already here today. The bottom line is that for too long, our vendors have been marginalized, abused, and mistreated. They've been taken advantage of as a part of our system, and this has gone on for too long. We need these reforms now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. Recently in our State of the City, the speaker said, hashtag people over everything. And so I ask, where is that for our vendors? Our vendors are our neighbors. Our vendors are people, and they want justice. We want justice, and we want it now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackson. We want to pass it to Councilmember Sanchez. She has some news for us.
Thank you. Se me olvidó decir algo. Well, first I wanna acknowledge all of my colleagues who are going to swing by today. But just so you hear all the names together, I am Councilmember Pierina Sanchez. You heard from Councilmember Julie Wan. Councilmember Shahana Hanif will be here. Jennifer Gutierrez will be here. Sandy Nurse, Alexa Aviles. You heard from Tiffany Caban, Christopher Marte, and Shaker Krishnan. So we are no somos uno, no somos dos, somos muchos y vamos a actuar. So I also want to share that we are going to be pursuing legislation in the City Council. I will be introducing legislation to increase access to business licensing for our smallest businesses. So we are pursuing legislative reforms and we're going to do that in unity. Quiero también compartir que sí vamos en el Consejo Municipal. Yo voy a introducir legislación, un proyecto de ley para hacer varias de las cosas que están pidiendo los vendedores ambulantes aquí. Vamos a tratar de conseguir más licencias. Vamos a tratar de racionalizar cómo se usan las calles y cómo la compartimos. Vamos a actuar así y vamos a hacerlo en unión.
Thank you so much, Council Member, for your commitment to the community and to reforming this system that has been in the books for decades and nobody want to touch it. Now it's time to open the books and rewrite the laws and make them make sense because they don't make sense for decades. Next, I would like to welcome Helen Hill from Flushing. Go for it! Flushing in the house!
大家好，我叫 Helen， 来自法拉盛。我在疫情期间是一名下岗的人，现在在法拉盛摆地摊，家里面有老有小，全家只靠我一个人挣钱养家。在别无选择的情况下，我找不到一个可以照顾家大小的，还可以挣钱的工作。没有办法的情况下，我只能走上街头，摆起了地摊。摆地摊辛苦与艰辛，在这里我就不跟大家多说了，大家都会知道的。当疫情很严重的时候，街上很少有人走，收入更是没有了。但是没有办法，为了房租，为了自己的孩子，我必须一点一点的坚持下去。正是因为我们这些摆地摊人的坚持，是我们这些商贩为了纽约的经济文化付出的一部分。正是因为我们这些摆地摊的人带动了社区的活跃，为广大的群众带来了方便和更多的选择。同时，我们也解决了一部分的就业问题。我们现在只想合法的经营下去，并且拥有自己的经营许可。我们呼吁市议会对街头贩卖系统进行公平的改革，包括取消执照和许可的上限，以及开放受限制的街道。
All right, I'm going to provide translation, and then I'll turn it back to Helen, okay? Hi, everyone. My name is Helen. I lost my job due to the pandemic, and now I vend merchandise in Flushing. I am the sole provider for my family, which includes my children and my elderly parents. I had no choice but to find a job that gave me the flexibility of taking care of my family and providing an income at the same time, which is why I started vending on the street. During the height of the pandemic, it was difficult because hardly anyone was on the street, so business was quite slow, but I stuck with it every single day. I don't need to go into depth on the hardships that comes with it. I'm sure my fellow vendors feel the same. Us street vendors are a part of the city's economy and culture. We bring vitality to our communities and give the public different choices of affordable goods and a convenient way to shop. At the same time, we created jobs for ourselves. I want to vend legally and have my own license. We call on the City Council for an equitable reform of the street vending system, including eliminating the caps on licenses and permits and opening restricted streets.
最后，我再总结一下，我再说两句。烈日炎炎似火烧，街头小贩日当熬。 病毒感染谁不怕？铤而走险为生活。当初街道很冷清，地摊文化促繁荣。官员置百姓水火之中而不顾，我们的功绩不可没，只为生活讨说法。
So to conclude, I will end with a poem. The scorching sun beats down from above, yet the street vendors endure the heat. Who isn't afraid of getting sick, of contracting COVID-19? But we persevere because we need to survive. The streets were empty in the beginning of the pandemic, but the vendors brought out our culture and vibrancy. City Council, don't ignore our hardships and our contribution to our community and society. We are only asking for a just way to live.
Thank you so much, Helen. That's great and so powerful. Give it up to Flushing, people. Flushing in the house. Next, I would like to welcome from Harlem our member Guadalupe Sose. Guadalupe.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Guadalupe Sosa, and I've been a street vendor for 10 years now, and have been vending along my mom, Lidia Calleja, for my whole life. I sell a mix of general merchandise items in East Harlem, and today I'm here speaking not only for myself, but for thousands of street vendors across New York City. As street vendors, we face many issues in having to deal with outdated systems, like the lack of merchandise, licenses, and permits, abuse by police, harassment by different city agencies, and hefty fines. It's traumatizing and heartbreaking when you spend your savings and all your time preparing your merchandise or cooking what you sell just for the health department to come alongside with NYPD to dump or confiscate your merchandise into a garbage truck or the back of the police truck. These departments don't care about the age, disability, race, or the pain vendors go through in seeing their stuff taken from their hands. Today we are here demanding a just reform for street vendors across the city. We're just as hardworking as many who sits in an office. We are not a public safety issue. We are vendors, and we're what make New York City great. Now I'll say it in Spanish. Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Guadalupe Sosa y soy vendedora ambulante desde hace más de 10 años. He vendido junto a mi madre, Lidia Calleja, toda mi vida. Perdón. Vendo una combinación de artículos junto a mi madre, que hemos sufrido varias cosas. El abuso policíaco y el abuso del Departamento de Salud, quien cuando se le pega la gana viene y nos quita nuestra mercancía. Muchas de las veces son gente que no puede agarrar sus cosas, correr y irse. Y muchas veces los atrapan y les dan multas muy caras. Por eso estamos aquí hoy pidiendo justicia y pidiéndole a todos los miembros del cónsul que nos apoyen y que nos den más licencias y permisos para todos. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Guadalupe. Thank you. It's great. Thank you. We hear you and we appreciate you so much. Well, in case you're still wondering why we're here today and what's going on, we are here to let you know that the existing system is not working. It's very small. We have tens of thousands of vendors waiting for an opportunity to formalize their business, to get into the system. Nobody want to break the law. No vendor want to break the law, but they are forced to by our outdated laws. They are forced to by our nonsense laws that existed for decades. Now we're going to start the picket line. So I would love to ask the press to step to the side. And maybe if you want to take a good look at the visuals over there to show you how long the wait lists are. Tens of thousands of people are on the wait list, cannot access a permit and cannot get into the system because of the red tape that the city government promised to cut. And before we start the picket line, we want to do the vendor power chant. Is everyone ready to do the vendor power chant? Everyone is ready? All right, we're going to do it in 6 languages, so please pay attention. 6 languages coming up. We're ready? Vendor power! Vendor power! Si se puede! Si se puede! قوة البائعين! قوة البائعين! Vendor Shukti! Vendor Shukti! Mola Modole! Mola Modole! Chiafa Liliang! Chiafa Liliang! Vendor power! Vendor power! Now everyone please step to the left next to the fence. And we're gonna start the picket line. All right. All right, everyone in the back, folks in the back, can you please?